Welcome to AltTabMe.com, the community that outlasts the release dates, Wildstar Podcasts. So these podcasts are we talk about the upcoming MMO Wildstar and everything and anything we think is interesting. So there's a little bit of a catch. These are only 30 minutes long. Once that 30 minutes is up, we stop no matter what we're talking about. Even if we're mid-sentence, bam, it's over. Well, except for one podcast that we did. Anyway, the idea behind that is that you can go to AltTabMe.com and you can participate in our community. You can ask us questions. You can talk about the current podcast. You can ask us to do topics for future podcasts. The idea is to get you guys involved. So, with that said, today's topic is the wish list. We'll get into that in a second.
Movie.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, totally. But anyway, with that said, the clock starts now. So, the wish list. What is the wish list? It's basically stuff that we've seen in game that we think is really cool, but this is how we'd like to see it so that, like suggestions that we might have or ways that we'd like to see it implemented so that it doesn't fall short. Like, everybody jumps on the hype train. Everybody has their ideas of, oh, this is going to be amazing. But if you really look at something, how could it be better? Or if it has a shortcoming here, it's not going to be that great. So this is kind of our way of, throwing out some suggestions and things that we'd like to see. So.
And when he says in-game, we're not actually in-game in the beta or anything. This is stuff that's been released. Yeah, we're all sad about it, that's for sure. But this is stuff that's been released through Carbine that we've seen, and we're either hopeful that it goes the way we want it to, or hopeful that it doesn't go the way we think it's going.
Yeah, and they're very receptive. Carbine has been very receptive to community feedback. So we've actually, in this one specifically, we've gotten feedback from some of our community members, and we're going to be bringing those questions out for, to break down. And and Carbine, when they hear these things, I feel like they have listened to the community and they have either implemented, changed, or kept it the way they are and explained why. So I feel like this is a helpful thing for the community in general. So with that, why don't I start it off, huh? I haven't started off one in a while. Let's do this. Yay. So housing. I want to talk about housing, obviously, because if you watched our housing podcast, you know why.
Or anything Tristan's ever been on, Tristan always wants housing.
Yeah.
I do. It's true. But let me explain that, and this is my wish list. So, to me, housing is great, but on its own, it's extremely boring. It pulls you out of the world. It makes the world less inhabited. It makes cities a little bit barren because you're in an instant zone of a house, which is the generic idea of a house these days. Now, what I really want to see is in Ultima Online, now I know this isn't a sandbox game, so don't shoot me in the, arrow to the knee or something, but
that's a different MMO.
But in Ultima Online, you could, with your guildmates or with your friends or with anybody really, you could make towns. And now that is where I think it really takes off. So in Guild Wars, for instance, God, we really wanted something with the influence and the stuff that you could gain through your guild influence. We really wanted to work together to build a guild hall. Now, Wildstar, that didn't have housing, that game. Now, Wildstar has housing. So, check this out. How cool would it be if, I don't expect there to be giant spanning masses of 1,000 people in one place, because I bet you, to load all of the different ploppables is probably pretty much near impossible in keeping, the game running. But I do feel like it would be really awesome if, A, you had a guild hall or a guild house that the whole guild could work on. So it's almost like a giant mansion. So we'll talk about it in housing standards, because this isn't really a fantasy, so it wouldn't be a castle. So it's a giant mansion, and everybody can contribute to that. It'll have guild vendors. It'll have places where you can sell stuff only to the guild. It'll have guild bank access. It'll have places where you can hold meetings. It'll have places where, you can duel. You can hone your skills. You can get special raid buffs and stuff like that. That would be really awesome for a guild to work together. Now, that's only one part of what I think is cool. what I think would be even cooler is now think about back in the old days of fantasy, like Renaissance times, like the actual Renaissance, the time in space, right? You had a castle, and then outlining that castle was everybody's hut. So imagine now if they could put in the tech so that you could have your guild mansion, and then outside of that, because it's all floating and flying and stuff, I really feel like they could optimize it so that you could hop on your little spaceship or whatever, however the hell you travel from one plot to the other, but you could literally have an instant zone for your guild to bring their houses in so that you have the guild mansion. That's the big thing that everybody sees when they come in, and then bam, there's all your guildies working on their houses, and you can go visit their houses, and now you have a neighborhood. That to me, what, Bruce, what?
Sorry, so this whole time you've been talking, I've thought of two things. One, we need a guild bar within this guild mansion. And two, you're talking about Renaissance castles and mansions and all that stuff. I'm just thinking, we're going to have a giant castle on an island and then a moat around it. And then, I'm just thinking of, why the hell would we need a moat when we're flying around in spaceships, in outer space, in islands, and teleporting and all that stuff? So that's just the first thing that came to mind. It's like, I could see us having a cascading waterfall off of our islands.
I think the idea is that, so instead of making you go to your guild mansion, for instance, and just hanging out there and just kind of sitting around, it allows you to go to your house that you've already been working on, and it's part of the guild neighborhood, so to say, and you can go and you can fly around or whatever, and you can randomly run into your guild mates. Obviously now, let's say you don't have a guild. So you're like, oh, but I want to see random people too. I think that they can make clusters of places where, like SimCity. Sorry, that game burned us so bad. Anyway, but it's got clusters, and so the idea is that you can then go with your, you can fly around and you can randomly see everybody in your cluster, and that starts communication. It increases the amount of interaction you have. You make friends. I can't tell you how many times I in Ultima Online I was plopped next to someone else's house. I was in my house, I don't know, fucking dropping off my loot from someone I killed. And the dude next door is there, and I stood outside his door, and, it was locked. You couldn't knock or anything. But he'd come out, and he'd be like, hello. And I'd be like, hey, what's going on? And he'd like, hey, you want to come in? Sure. And I'd come into his house. He'd either kill me or we'd have a really good time.
I would be in there saying, get off my lawn.
Crotchety old man.
Right? But it gives you the opportunity, especially, oh, man, role players would love it. But for the general masses, it really helps that community feel. And I feel if you can bring a guild together in that sense, where you have this big, we worked for that, and then you're at your own house and you can still see that. Oh, I just think that's so cool. And with the way they laid it out, with them all floating islands, I feel that it's something that's very doable. Maybe not for release, but I would love to see that in the future of housing, instead of just going and being like, oh, port to my instance, I'm alone. Or
just thinking off that, it synergizes with the idea that you can add stuff like your raid portal or your crafting station on your house, and if you have a neighbor that is right there, they might have a different crafting station or a farmable plot or something on theirs, and then it's not like you have to leave your instance and go to theirs, or everybody congregates at one person's house because he has all the things. That would actually kind of be cool.
Well, yeah, and the minute you jump out of it, the minute you zone in or out of anything, it breaks your immersion. Bam. So the minute you can have at least some more people around you, the more you feel like you're in an MMO and not a single player game. And I think that would be really important and a wonderful step for Carbine to take, especially since they're implementing some new stuff here where they can be on the forefront of housing in that section.
But if they do something like that, you're always going to have that one guy that, just like in a neighborhood, you're always going to have that one guy that just has a really shitty house.
But that's like,
okay. Why the fuck is that guy in our neighborhood? Look
at
that shitty
thing.
Clean up your lawn.
Why is it got to be that one guy, huh? Why you got to talk about me like that?
But that's
They could have a community vote where you meet at the town hall and you could just vote them out of the community and tell them to leave.
Oh, that's terrible.
Community boards for guild.
That's part of the fun, though. You know what I mean? And
Your
plus,
house
they're floating islands. So maybe if a guild member leaves, it crumbles the island, and another one comes up. And it uses that really. It uses that really cool intro that they did with that guy that was talking about buying and selling houses. Like maybe he shows up and he builds another fucking island and he just like scrubs the thing and he's like, oh, it's brand new. You can buy this. Nobody's lived here.
The best used car dealership.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's one of my main things. Let me pass it off to someone else. John, tell me one of your main things.
My main wish list is to just have warplots be as totally awesome as they can be, because one of the most disappointing things for me, and I think some of the other guys, was getting into World v World in Guild Wars and not having rewards, not having the tools to be able to make it less zergy, is what it turns out to be. So they have it already now. I mean, because it's a appropriate scale in Wildstar. It's 40 versus 40 or possibly 20 versus 20. So it's not unlimited and huge giant battles, but it's big enough that it's going to be epic, for lack of a better word. And I think that they have the bases and everything, and they just need the tools. You need to be able to have someone directing the flow of your troops and directing the flow of battle, and you need to have a certain level of organization. So they need to have those tools that you can use to complete that in-game while you're moving through the battle and whatnot. And then on top of that, they need to have, besides bragging rights for beating the crap out of all the other guilds, you need to have, like, obviously they're going to be PvP rewards for battlegrounds and everything else. You need to have some sort of rewards for warplots. I mean, other than a gear, I would like to see maybe unique stuff you can earn for your warplot, not to necessarily unbalance it, but maybe stuff that you could say like, hey, this guy's kicking everyone's ass, or this guild's kicking everyone's ass. They got, this cannon or whatever. They got something on their base and whatnot.
Skins or something, yeah.
Yeah, skins or something like that, just to make you stand out, like, so just basically like
That's really
rewards
cool.
and everything, and something to strive for, and something to make it less zergy, so you can have strategic battles inside those.
Yeah, and if you check our PvP podcast out, that was released actually 2 days ago. Yeah. Or a while ago. Sorry. But anyway, that one, if you check it out, we talk about commanders and stuff like that. So we won't get into too much detail, but that's also something we were thinking about as, if John could be a commander and seeing the entire battle and telling Group A and Group B and Group C where to go, it'll give it a lot more organization, such as like what Battlefield 4 is doing right now.
And it's funny, we are actually talking about this earlier just in our little chat box on our site. Warplots are starting to look like almost like a really intense version of an RTS. Like I'm starting to have that feel of, say John is our commander or warplot leader or raid leader or whatever you want to call it, and he's telling all these other squads to go here, there, and everywhere. And maybe there's a resource mechanic or something. We're building up these walls. Like, it's starting to really look like a micromanaged internal RTS. And that sounds awesome. Like, I'm starting to see a mix of a Smite MOBA in a warplot scenario. Like, it's starting to sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing. And they had that, like, when you first looked at World v World in Guild Wars again, you had that. You saw the potential there, and it was like, oh, this is possibly what it's like. I'm seeing the same thing there. I just, I hope Carbine's listening. I want to make sure, like, look, give us the tools to do it. Give us the tools to have organized gameplay and foster that, and you'll have crazy strategic
and we'll
battles.
use it. Just,
Yeah,
in World v World and Guild Wars 2, there weren't, there was the commander icon. Give me a break. I mean, it was the biggest waste of 100 gold I've ever seen.
That you didn't pay for.
Right. But
Yeah.
it's like, give us the tools to make things happen, and I guarantee you that the players will make them happen, and people will step up to the plate. There's always someone to do that. On the topic of warplots, let's roll right into open PvP. I know that me and John have a couple things on open PvP that we wanted to chat about. For me, I think one of the things is incorporating somehow the paths into making stronghold defenses that start pushing the enemy back, or making it like so you could literally push an enemy back to their main city, and you could dig in on a PvP server. So like I understand PvE servers, people may not want to do that, but maybe somehow flagging it on a PvP server or making it so that if it's on a PvE server you can run around it or something, you know what I mean? But the idea that you can build defenses and push people back and actually dig in, like here's our front line and now our front line is here and now we're closer and now we're in your city. You know what I mean? Stuff like that to just make it feel like that faction war is ongoing versus, hey, I'm bored. You guys want to make a 40-man raid and go hit Orgrimmar? You know what I mean? Which is also fun, but it would be great if we had some objectives.
Well, I believe we touched on that in another podcast, how some of the path, I guess abilities or things you can do with the paths seem like they would translate over well into open world PvP, and I'm just hoping that they take that further. I mean, we know that that's not going to be a focus before release, but hopefully afterwards they sort of look at that and say, oh, this would be cool to kind of, if we can balance it out, explorers can whatever capture this little area of land and all the kind of things. And like I know surveillance was also listed for explorers as like a PvE thing, but if they could somehow translate that into a PvP thing, like you get radar when you have like surveillance like set up or whatever, so you can kind of see what's going on in the area, things like that. Just seems like it'd be awesome if they could implement that for open
with
world.
The genre too.
You know what I just thought of too when you mentioned the paths in the open world PvP, the explorers that actually have the underground tunnels. Now just think if you're actually PvPing on like right above these tunnels and you're like, oh man, there's a path here, send part of your squad underneath and maybe they're doing the same thing, you have a small battle under there, whoever conquers that you can then now flank the others. Oh my god, I just got really excited.
Swear I said something about that in warplots where the bunnies are digging, man. The bunnies are digging.
Yeah, we mentioned it, but now it actually physically clicked. Like, oh man, that's gonna be so exciting.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Carbine's like, we didn't make that. Fuck! Oh god, he's already excited for it. Oh god. Anyway, so we keep it moving. So Bruce, what's your wish list thing?
Well, my wish list is very generic yet very specific at the same time. I really want economic balance, and I want that from day one. We saw that, if you don't have a bad economy in a MMO, that ruins so many different aspects. I mean, you're ruining, either PvE for being able to easily buy gear or too hard to buy some gear that maybe mix and match. Sometimes it's hard for, any form of consumable. Right now I'm really hoping that they implement some kind of like an alchemy consumable process in Wildstar. We don't know too much about the trade skills. We can assume that we'll have some weapon smithing, some armor smithing and stuff of that sort, but maybe a housing crafting, which would be pretty cool. But I'm really hoping for some form of like an alchemy consumable, either buff or potion or healing, but overall, like, I really want to see an economic balance. We mentioned before in another podcast, we want, the global auction house kind of ruins an economy because everything becomes so normalized because the supply is so huge across the board, and then you start to see in smaller economies that it gets a little bit spikier, and that's not just good for the people that make a lot of money, but that's actually really good for the people that aren't making a lot of money, because you're not just buying a standard set all the time. You'll actually see those cheaper deals, those cheaper sales. It's like almost a flash sale on the internet for any of these gamer websites. It really is.
Black Friday in Wildstar.
Well, I mean, it really is. You can follow trends a bit easier. You know on a weekend there's going to be a bit more volume than on a weekday, and it's like the economic side of things. It's just so meticulous. It's so in depth that you have to really balance it so well, and it's a nightmare. I would hate to be on a development team and trying to balance everything. I'm telling you, I mean, there's free money in the game all around all the time. You have to take it out or else it just becomes worthless. And then it's just like it's such a nightmare. And then no matter what you do, there's going to be people bitching. There's going to be people upset. Oh, I have to pay 15% tax on my auction house. Yeah, or else everything's going to be worth a bajillion gold because there's a bajillion gold in the market. I mean, it's just...
All right, wish list, man. Wish list.
Wish list.
Tig, or we're going to go to you now. So I want to remind you, just because you told me to, rare items are one of your things that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Bruce, that I want a robust crafting system. I want a good economy, because the economy game is a lot of what I enjoy about it. But I actually also enjoy the crafting, so I hope they have a good crafting system that's fun to do. But in relation to that, I really, really love when they have rare recipes and rare items that drop in the world that have a low drop rate that
Low
are
drop
hard
rate.
to get.
Low,
Very low drop rate.
Low drop rate.
Low. 0, 0,
Even
0,
if
0,
I don't
1.
get it, I will do what I can to make enough money to buy it, even at that inflated price. Even in WoW, I was one of the first ones in the Burning Crusade to get it was a mediocre, middle-of-the-road gem socket recipe. And I was one of like 3 people on my server that had it for, I would say, 2 months. And it cost me almost everything I had. And I ended up, just because I was one of the few people that had it, and I wasn't even gouging people, I was making a profit out of it. I don't even think I was making double the mats cost profit on it. And I ended up tripling my investment because the recipe was rare, it was hard to get, and it was good enough that people would want to buy it, but I was one of the few people that had it on the auction house. And you know, with the global economy, you can't do that because even if it's a low drop rate, you've got everybody that's ever bought the game having a chance at it. So yes, I want those rare pets, I want those rare mounts, and not only for the fact that I can make money off of it, but also because it's awesome to have that vanity item that you can run around on. I went to BlizzCon 08 and I got the polar bear mount, and
you suck.
I didn't, until they put flying mounts in the game, I never used any other mount, period. I always had that mount, and even when they put flying mounts in the game, if I was on the ground, I would use that mount because I just loved having that thing so much.
Not even just mounts. I feel like, and that stuff. I feel like what you said earlier with the crafting. If there is some sort of a profession that makes it so you can craft items for a house, I feel like a rare drop for an item on house crafting would be awesome, because then you literally you can play into your profession so that you're not max level and you're like, oh, well, I only have these things to build and that's it, I'm done, and now my crafting profession is useless. People will now come to you because they hear that you have XYZ, and you can drop these ploppables for them. You can work with them, you can sell them to them, and they know it's yours. Maybe even like having it being like made by your character name.
They did mention that I think they want to do that. I'm not sure if they've officially announced that it will be in or if it was planned to be implemented in. They did want to have the name of the crafter on an item. Like
I would love that.
They did say they wanted to do that. And
it's great for tailors because you can name yourself like Calvin Klein, and you can be like, my tunic was made by Calvin Klein. Giorgio Armani was here. You know what I mean? Like, it really adds to the fun factor.
That's great.
They did that in Ultima Online a lot, and it was really cool when you'd like run around and you had like this silk shirt made by Calvin Klein. People were like, what the hell?
I would make a crafting alt and call it My Butt Smells. Just so people had to run around with a tag that said My Butt Smells.
Wow. See, and now that's the reason they're not going to implement it.
That's the reason they're going to wipe that from the...
Well, the reason they wanted to do it is that, you know, you throw all these items on the auction house and people buy them, and then they go, oh, cool, this person made this. And then you can actually seek out that person and go, oh, hey, I saw you made this. You know that they have that crafting, hopefully.
Yeah, you made this sword. Can you make this other high-end sword?
Exactly.
Or can I have two more of that chair? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it creates that community conversation and interaction
Love it.
you don't see nowadays.
Anything that boosts community and interaction is a 100% plus for me.
Oh yeah.
So there was some stuff that there was some stuff that some of our community members brought up, specifically Kellenol. He brought up some really good ones. Let's see here. What did he bring up?
He was talking about soul binding. He said he wasn't sure if he wanted it or not. I'm actually for soul binding. It gets items out of the economy or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, bind on pickup.
Bind on equip, bind on pickup.
Okay.
Type of stuff. Where once you put it on your character, you can't give it or sell it to anybody else. The only thing you can do is either throw it away or sell it for, you know, the base price that a vendor will sell it to you.
Salvage, if that's
salvage, disenchant, whichever mechanic is in there. I like it because it's another form of a money sink, and I'm actually a big fan of money sinks because, like Bruce said, with the economy, you'll get that inflation. In fact, a lot of games nowadays are actually hiring economists with master's degrees in watching the economy and change it, and their only job is to make sure that the economy is going well. I know Guild Wars 2 did it, and keep it balanced on a regular basis, not just, hey, we threw this in, game launch, where you don't care about the money, it'll sort itself out.
Hey, Carbine, just so you know, I do have my degree in economics and all that fun stuff, so, you know, and finance. So, you know, if you happen to need an extra fellow on that team.
You know what'd be really cool, too, is I noticed that the achievements and stuff, they pop up on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen in a really nice little box. Now, we were just playing an FPS the other day called Blacklight, and there's, you know, in most FPSs, if you've been dominated by someone and then you kill them, it tells you revenge taken, or, you know, you blah, blah, blah. I would love to see, like, those little pop-ups that kind of keep you interacted with what has happened to you. So, like, let's say someone just, like, camped your corpse 7 times, and then you happen to kill him. Oh, man, wouldn't it be great if that little pop-up was, like,
blacklist.
Dominated, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, man, that would be great. Have a blacklist in the game. Show
Yeah.
how many times you've been killed by certain people. Oh, my God, that's amazing.
They've got circles.
That
You
is
could make-
amazing.
you could make
That
a
would
a
be
black
great.
circle.
What can you think of? Like, it wasn't one of the Star Wars games. Didn't they have a like a bounty hunter system where you could actually put a bounty on someone's head, and if they kill them, their actual money goes to that person?
Well,
that
they
killed
do
them?
have in the Soldier Path. There is bounties, but it's only PVE.
Nah, that's
It would be
only
cool if
PvE,
you could use
though.
that on PvP though.
With the
So
path
exciting.
abilities
Oh my God,
yeah.
I'm gonna make like a blacklist add-on or something to show.
Oh, that would be cool,
Oh my
actually.
God, there you go.
There you go,
Add-on-
an add-on
add-on
community.
modders. Go. Oh my God.
I
this is
like it.
perfect.
And then
We
you
can
could
have-
set, like, maybe you could set prices on the add-on, so you could put bounties on people's head and you'll pay.
Oh my
Dude, that's a
God.
great add-on idea.
Dude,
Time out. Come to AltTabMe.com. We have some programmers. We have some Lua editors. Come talk to them. If you're good at that kind of stuff, we'll definitely help it make it happen. Let's do it.
Definitely. Oh my
Alright.
God, now I'm excited.
That sounds awesome.
That's really cool, yeah, for real. So,
I did something creative.
Oh, okay,
Woo!
so that's right. A couple other things that Kel was talking about. One that I don't agree with him on, but he likes attunements for raids. He wants attunements so that
what does that
it's-
mean? Sorry.
it's like a big quest chain.
You don't
that
remember
have to go
attunements?
through.
Oh, attunement for raids.
Yeah.
And you can't go. Yeah,
I
I don't
like
like
that.
it either.
I like them for the story, but it pisses me off when I'm behind.
Well, Carbine did mention that they do like the idea of attunements, but they don't want them to be long, drawn out, and boring. They want them to be fun and interactive and make you feel like you should do it before that you're doing something else.
Right.
Like I could see, you know.
It should be implemented earlier on in your quest chain, so when you hit that level, you're already attuned. Not, I hit 80, and now I have to go run around to attune myself. It should be building up to there. Look, you're 80. You're this strong now.
50.
Go do it. I know. I'm whatever. You know. You get the point. You get the point.
I know.
I
but it's
don't like them because it limits who you can bring to your raid.
but,
That's
I
the
mean,
big thing for me.
But on the other side, if you're planning on raiding, that's the side of prepared that I really hate in some people when they're not prepared. I mean,
You are not prepared.
seriously.
Yeah, but there's
I
gonna
got
be
you.
pug raids. There's
But-
going to be a lot of people that don't have a raiding guild and they want to do the content, even if they're not going to be the best at it or the first.
So okay, but
Hundreds to kill it.
what's the wish list here? What is it that we wish
Attunements. I personally like attunements. Tig is a crotchety old man who wants everything handed to him, but you know,
That's right.
I like earning things. He just
for?
wants.
Okay,
to
all right, okay. Next topic.
I don't want
Next
to earn
topic.
the chance to go
Mike,
earn something.
next topic. Here we go. Moving on. Thanks, Kel, for ruining our podcast. See, you can give your suggestions. You can totally bring us off topic. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think something else he said was rep grinds. For me personally, he wants rep grinds. I don't understand why people want rep grinds. I like to play the game, and then I like to, by playing the game, getting these things. Like, for instance, Guild Wars 2 implemented all these things in the lower levels after majority of the people hit 80 that were early adopters, and so we felt like we missed out on all this, you know, the dailies and all this other stuff that you could have been getting while you were playing. I want to feel like I am playing through the game, and once I hit max level, yes, I may have to go back and rep grind a little bit, but by playing and by getting immersed in the story and the content and the world around me, I've already attained what I need to go further, and then if I need to go even further, there should be places to do that.
But see, I want to bring this back to my achievement whoreness, and I really want to my showing off abilities and bragging rights and all that other stuff. What was it, like 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago I quit WoW? When I left, I had probably 40 something exalted factions. I had like 120 mounts from all these different.
Yeah, but achievements don't have to
but
be something that you grind for. Achievements can be
Yeah.
things that are you worked for.
But I did work for them. Just happened to be through grinding.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's
I mean,
to me that's not work. That's making a game work, whereas you should have gotten it because it was fun.
but
Well,
see,
I'm kind of on
I-
the fence.
I like the rewards though. I like to have, I like when I grinded whatever Timberlane, whatever the bear bog, whatever people.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Um, when I got the horn and I could summon my own pet of it as a trinket, like I could show that off and people are like, wow, congratulations for doing that. That is actually really cool. Or like I had, all the 5 faction.
All right, we
mounts,
got
I
it.
could-
We got
Huh?
the point. We got the point.
All right.
I'm a little bit on the fence with rep grinds because one, I don't like that you have to have a grind on it, but I like that there's something that you can
Are we
achieve
really already
that other
done?
people can't.
And that's it.
Was
30
it
minutes
30?
is up, my
Holy
friend.
shit, that was
30
nothing.
minutes
And
is
we
up.
only hit about 2/3 of what
Here's
we
what
had.
we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. We're gonna run part 2 of this one. I don't know if we'll do it right away because we want to get our hands on the game before we start making too many wish lists. This was just like the top of our head, what we've heard so far, and how we think it would be even cooler kind of stuff. So take it as that, and then when the game comes out, and we get our hands on it, the NDA is lifted. Then we would definitely like to approach the wish list a second time.
So
but-
please, Carbine, get us in the game so we can do more podcasts like
Don't beg.
like this.
Yeah,
Don't
no begging.
beg.
No
Oh,
begging.
I'll do anything. I'll beg.
Wow.
What's
All
that
right.
cock?
Anyway, moving
It's an
on.
adult podcast.
So yeah, it is true. It's an adult podcast. So moving on. Thanks for watching. If we've talked about something and you'd like to submit, like we said, and we did in this, if you want to submit for a future podcast or you have anything that you want us to talk about, go to AltTabMe.com, the community that outlasts the release dates, and participate in our Wildstar Podcasts. We will see you guys next time.